Hey, guess what? I forgot to pre announce today's broadcast. So I'm going to just hang out and make sure that we have a few people that realize that we're live. My bad. And I want to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to find us and connect with us. It's so funny because I wrote the text that I usually write for the announcement, and usually I do the announcement between 9:30 and 10, and then I get all the content organized for the morning's presentation. And because I was busy coming up with a couple of new ideas, this morning I dropped the ball. But I'm here. I see that there are 9 of you here. So I am going to get started with our usual stuff and hope that others will find you as well. Let's push that button. Coffee and Headlines is brought to you by the generous support of our viewers and the following community partners: Best Cord Cutting TV, Bravo's Restaurant Bar, El Rey Lounge de Versalles, Joint Boutique Hotel and Cowork, Monson Brewing Company, Puerto Vallarta Neurofeedback, Puerto Vallarta Owners Reps, Oculto, and Siam Cocina Thai. Thank you for your support, and thank you for supporting our community partners. That is so funny. And of course, Chris nails it and says, blame it on a pothead moment. Well, how do you know? But not this morning. Not this morning. Let's just say I had a great weekend, being inspired with all kinds of projects, new and old, and planning things for the future and planning things for the summer and coming up with ideas for presentations. So I have a lot of fun updates for you this morning. I hope you had a good weekend yourselves. Let me grab my buttons so that I can be better equipped to connect. There you go. Happy Monday. This is Coffee and Headlines, of course, where we connect with news and headlines from our city, state, and country. We connect with your questions, ideas, and suggestions. We bring it up and we combine all this information and put it to good use as a community of English speaking locals, either living in Puerto Vallarta or happy to connect with our way of life as English speaking locals. We have all kinds of chit chatting news, nothing particularly important. Of course, we have to touch base on that tragic incident from New York City. We might as well get started with that. Of course, if you didn't hear about this over the weekend, the Mexican Navy's training ship Cuauhtemoc, um, which was visiting the New York City area, collided with the Brooklyn Bridge during a maneuver. And following the tragic accident, 2 crew members lost their lives. So President Sheinbaum expressed her condolences on social media. She assured that the Mexican government, through the Navy and in coordination with local authorities, is caring for the injured and providing support to the families of the victims. This was truly a lamentable incident. I have read elsewhere that the crew of the Cuauhtemoc has returned to Mexico, to Veracruz. And I also read somewhere that unfortunately, the parents of one of the deceased were not able to go to New York City because of visa issues. And that is just sad. But, it is what it is. Also, as the weather gets warmer, I'd like to reintroduce you to the concept of dog days of summer, known in Spanish as la canicula. This is a period of weather that typically occurs between the second half of July and the end of August, although its duration and exact date can vary each year. Um, The primary outcome of this effect is the increase of temperatures, and in some regions, temperatures can go higher than 40 degrees Celsius, which presents a risk to our health and to the population at large, but particularly to children and seniors or people with chronic diseases. According to the National Meteorological System, this is characterized also by a temporary decrease in rainfall. Um, and although the state of Jalisco is not among the states in which the canicula or the dog days of summer manifest themselves most eloquently, it is something that we know will be coming later on in the summer months. And speaking of coming later on, do you struggle keeping track of all these special promotional sales that go on in Mexico? I know I do. Just to recap, there's the El Buen Fin, or the Good Weekend, which usually happens in the fall, sometime before or after U.S. Thanksgiving. Then there's the new tourism related El Buen Fin, or the Great Escape, which is a brand new concept. It happens at the end of May. But then there's also Hot Sale, which also happens at the end of May, featuring over 700 national and international brands that offer special online promotions. So we have three of them to keep track of, two of them that are coming in the near future. Last I checked, a couple of days ago, on the website for the travel version of El Buen Fin, it was still in enrollment mode, so it's still not providing any useful information for consumers, but this is bound to change. Of course, I will leave information about these events in the show notes. Of course, this time around, I will leave the links to this news item about the hot sale and also the hot sales official website, and we will do that in the show notes. And I'm repeating myself. Why? Why am I repeating myself? Maybe because it's warm here and it's time to look at the weather. Let's see what is going on. Is the sun really so important to life on Earth that we have to name a day of the week after him? I would say the answer to that is yes. But speaking of answers to things, I have an interesting announcement just after the weather. But first, let's see what's going on out there. It's 29 degrees, humidity is at 61%. Our weather forecast for today calls for a humid day with clear skies, a high of 31 and a low of 21. Then tomorrow, Tuesday, a humid day with clear skies, a high of 31 and a low of 21. And then Wednesday, again, a humid day with clear skies, and again, a high of 31 and a low of 21. So, not many changes going on there. Permission for the weather to get any warmer, at least for the first half of the week, is denied. Now, continuing with our headlines. Yes. Okay. So I'm always curious about where your mind is at and your opinion on this, that, and the other. And I have decided that we will start a weekly survey, but we're not going to do it here. We're going to do it on the show notes. That way it can be easily collected. We can, or rather, we can easily collect information from Facebook viewers, from YouTube viewers, and from show note viewers. All you have to do is go to the daily show notes and you will find a question of the week. Now, I'm not going to tell you, hold on. I'm not going to tell you what the question of the week for this week is, because then you will be inclined to maybe start answering the question here in your comments. And what we want to do is not that. Instead, we want to collect all the information so that we can then analyze them. So you will find the question of the week in the show notes this morning, and we will take a look at your answers a week from today, at which point we will deploy another question, and so forth and so on. Now, let me continue with unhappy news or sad news that I received over the weekend, and then I'll show you this, but not yet. I received a really sad email message over the weekend, and I have permission to talk about this from the person who sent it to me. Um, it all started with someone who wrote to me and said, and I'm reading, I'd like to see or ask if you could be more involved with advising us foreigners on buying in Mexico, especially new construction. I purchased a condo and it's been 3 years now, and we don't have our deed. Why? The corruption. I am pleading with you to please help us who were brainwashed and now cannot sell my place. Now, when I received this, my first reaction was, oh, this is unfortunate. My second reaction was, this happens. And I wanted to show some empathy, of course. So I quickly got back to this person indicating that, yes, this is important. And also reminding the viewer that for better or worse, most of our content is first and foremost geared towards English speaking locals and those of you who have already made the commitment to being here. Our interaction with tourists or people that visit just for small periods of time is more of an afterthought. And what I said to this person is, I think chances are you will find professional help sooner or faster than me becoming a real estate expert or a lawyer. Um, and I encourage the person to bring it up here in a regular broadcast so that hopefully this person could find some helpful feedback in terms of specific people that can help. Of course, I'm already thinking of wonderful real estate um, specialists like our friend Derek Hartner, who recently talked to us in the spotlight. But then this person wrote me back, and this is the part that really broke my heart because while we are in the midst or we thrive at creating connections, there are some connections that are challenging, and they're challenging for me because as much as I'd like to say that I know a little bit of everything, I don't know specifics of law and I don't know specifics of real estate. So the follow-up message, which broke my heart, reads, and I do want to share this with everyone, and I ask for permission because this is a cautionary tale. The person wrote, I'm so devastated by buying and thinking that Puerto Vallarta was going to be my life. This low-life person robbed me from that dream. I moved back to the States because I just couldn't believe how wrong this turned out. Maybe calling Profeco, I don't know. Profeco, of course, is the Mexican um, Association Attorney's Office for Consumer Complaints. Then he adds on, I hired an attorney. They took this person to some pre hearing and told me I can sue him with no problem. But let's see if um, I can get my deed by December. Look at where I am at now. People need to know what the possibilities are when purchasing. If I would have known, if someone would have given me the compassion to tell me, I would not have been fooled. I would never have spent 200,000 of my hard-earned money. And I see myself living in my car soon because rent over here, back in the United States, is very expensive and I cannot afford it. So this is the message that I received, and it breaks my heart to read it. It breaks my heart to know that this happens, and it probably happens more often than we reported or than is discussed. So it really is important, particularly when you get to making large investments in Mexico, and I mean financial investments, that you, as a home buyer, do all the research you can before you dive into it and really seek out professional opinions before you dive into the pool, um, and not after you are misrepresented and or you are provided with something that is not what you thought you were going to get. So my heart goes out to this particular person. If anybody has has had something like this happen and you found a good local attorney or a good real estate professional that held your hand through such a sad situation, your comments are truly, truly appreciated. What is next? What is next? Look at this. This is a container of sour cream. It's empty, of course. And I show it here because last weekend, my dear friends Claudio and Lucas, who live out in the mountains, said to me, well, we need crochet baskets for our hanging orchids and air plants. And I said, well, I can do that. So, how large do they have to be? And they said, well, like as wide as a sour cream container, but as tall as one of the tall ones. So, I present to you Ophelia, and I call her Ophelia because it reminds me of Orchidea, which is what they want to use them for. Da 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 da. Here is my prototype hanging basket that I made for Claudio and Lucas. It has little itty bitty handles because I assume they're going to hang them um, from the wall or from something. So this is what kept me busy, or one of the things that kept me busy over the weekend. Um, I also, well, I already told you about the survey. Well, let me go on with the rest of our content so that this will make sense to you. First of all, reminders of events. We talked about this before, and I thought it happened over the weekend, but it turns out it happens today. The Puerto Vallarta Pride Pet Parade Sunset Dog Walk, and I'm putting the event details in the show notes so that you can find out more about this. Tomorrow, it'll be my pleasure to attend this performance by Amy Armstrong and Sargento Dan. We aired the interview for it on Friday, and it's surely going to be a lot of fun. And then there's this run, 3K and 6K Rainbow Run, which is going to happen on the 25th. That would be on Sunday. And if you want to go run, or maybe you want to go cheer some of the people that are running, I will put this in the show notes. Of course, I am busy wrapping up everything for my Ravel presentation this weekend. I'll have a promotional video for you in a second. But I'm also doing my homework on the next presentation after that. Sing the story, and this will be about how Rodgers and Hammerstein reinvented the musical with great productions such as Oklahoma, The King and I, South Pacific, and The Sound of Music. And then I started scheduling more stuff. So the next presentation in June, the second presentation in June, is going to be about the wonderful music by Michel Legrand. You know, the last time I spoke about him was a few years ago, and I was so tickled that during the presentation, um, a lot of people said, "Well, I had no idea he wrote these songs," and that is the big thing about Michel Legrand, the amazing French composer whose music has touched generations, often without them even knowing it. So we're going to look at Legrand's music, and then I received a great suggestion from my friend John and my friend Pam. They would like to see me do a presentation on the music of Ennio Morricone. So that will happen during the month of July. So I've been busy planning all these wonderful activities during the coming months. So before we go into the chit chat, let us take a look at, once again, my promo for my presentation of this Thursday, focusing on the music of Maurice Ravel. Take a look. Oh, what do you mean the file is not found? What do you mean? What do you mean? Huh. Well, maybe I can find it really quickly and maybe I can show it to you. Don't go anywhere. Don't go anywhere. Meanwhile, no, I have no idea where it went. That is a glitch. So let's go straight, gaily forward to the chit chat section. Oh my goodness, look at all these things that are not showing up the way they're supposed to be showing up. Why is that? It must be a Monday. That's all I'm going to say. So we're going to do this. We're going to do this, and we're going to not have outgoing music or chit chat music. Let me see what we have to share from you today. Yes, Vicky, the link was not there when you looked because I forgot to program the pre-announcement. My apologies. I'm glad you found us along with another 48 people that are watching. Fantastic. Lots of good mornings, lots of happy Mondays. I almost couldn't find you. Sherry, I often cannot find myself. I'm just going to leave it at that. I self misplace quite frequently. Let's see. La la la. Lots of great comments. It's Victoria Day here, says Mary, but only 12 degrees. Face purple sweating. I love it. Uh, and yes, that was a sad and awful incident. Two very young Marines died in that accident. Um, Peter says, too much vino this weekend. I would have to agree and say yes. Not enough to cause a hangover, but I pampered myself beautifully over the weekend, if I may say so myself. Let's see what else we have. I love the mini Paco. I love the mini Paco too. And I'm putting him to good use because he is now the face of my new website. Sorry about that. Let's see. Harold says, my wife's sister Mary just left from the airport en route back to the Austin, Texas area. She stayed at our house in Buceria for a week and loved being here. How wonderful. That's great. Um, Carmen, hello, Carmen. Time to keep cold watermelon, prickly pears, and chayotes in my fridge for cooling snacks. Also, I will keep an eye on fun and interesting movies at the cinema. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. I am looking forward to Superman on the cinema. Let's see what else. How unfortunate for the people. This is about the real estate situation. Paco, they probably need legal help. That's what I thought. You really have to research everything. I hope they don't give up. Keep pressing for solutions and justice. I'm going to ask at my office to see what they say. Here's the challenging part of these situations. And I would like to invite you to look at two sides of that coin. First of all, it is unfortunate when people come here and leave here with a bad taste of Mexico as a whole when what happens sometimes happens thanks to the nasty will of some very specific individuals. The flip side of that, and I've been getting a lot of comments from American friends along the lines of, well, you are not going to go ahead and have a bad opinion about me as an American because of the decisions that are being made about my country by my current government. And of course, in my case, the answer is definitely not. But I can also see how just as foreigners can develop a negative perception of Mexico based out of isolated incidents, I see a lot of Mexican people also developing a bad impression of Americans because of what's going on north of the border. So, my invitation to us is to not go into hyperbole mode and just keep that in mind that these things are isolated and can happen, and empathy, I believe, is important. Let's see what else we have. Karen says the basket is beautiful. Thank you very much, Karen. I'm ready for feedback. I'm going to see Claudio and Lucas tomorrow when we go to see um, Amy Armstrong. So they're going to see the basket for the first time, and I will find out if this prototype is the right size or if it should be taller, shorter, wider, or narrower. Let's see what else we have. Da, 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 da. Please also be cautious with researching rental properties. Smaller loss potential, but can be just as disruptive if misrepresented. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I remember like booking an Airbnb in Guadalajara with a friend, and we got into this place that obviously was unoccupied. And once we got there, we knocked on the door to hoping to be greeted by the host. The host was not there, and there was a barking dog inside. So we quickly canceled, got our money back, and found a different place to stay. Not ideal, but shit happens. Let's see what else. I think, oh, Pamela, here you are. Please tell John that I'm so grateful for the Ennio Morricone music suggestion. I went in the middle of my pothead weekend. I went into this wonderful rabbit hole listening to some of my favorite Ennio Morricone scores. And yes, we're going to have a presentation in July. And I'll let you know ahead of time because I know that you guys often have rehearsals for Teatro Sin Borders. And this brings us to the end of today's broadcast. I thank you, as always, for keeping me company, and I hope that you will have a wonderful Monday. I thank you for your ongoing support, and I look forward to seeing you again tomorrow morning for more coffee, more headlines, and stories. Go look at the show notes when they're published and find the question of the week. I'll see you tomorrow morning.